implications of crowdfunding on community banks, and we've had numerous conferences in front of community banks, and I think that the next Global Coastal Show in San Francisco is really going to be engaging that sector in this, and I think that there is significant regulations that prevent them from the speed and transparency and flexibility that this new emerging market has. And the banks are, frankly, realizing that they're up against a competitor that's operating in a completely different environment that's going to put them at a significant competitive disadvantage. I'm going to jump right here and then over to Rick.
Perfect. So this is directed toward Pia. In the short time that Patchaland has been around, can you tell us about an innovation that you introduced to this model that that you see now? You were kind of the first to market, and was there anything that Patchaland did that was kind of an innovation that you now see some other people pivoting to? What makes, I guess, Patchaland unique comparative to a lot of other platforms?
Well, it's not really an innovation. It's probably that we've always been pre-funding. That was the one thing that we always did differently in our focus on debt. You know, we're not doing the equity side of things. But probably the pre-funding, it's not an innovation, and it's just something we had the ability to do that. So I would say that, yes.
Great. Rick, you have a question?
Sure. I get this question for community leader. I'll ask you guys. Wall Street and the big boys, so to speak, I think are going through the second step of a three-step process as it applies to the Jobs Act. The first one was to criticize. The second thing, I think now they're looking with curiosity as to what's going on. The third is they're going to eventually partake. What are the plans that you guys have to withstand the push of these so-called big boys as they enter into the field using the tools of the Jobs Act?
Anybody want to take that on? I know you have no shortage of thoughts on that.
So, my perspective in 1910, can anyone tell me, of the top 5 companies in America, 4 of them were in one sector. Can anyone tell me what it was?
Automobiles?
It wasn't, it was the railways. Railways. So 4 out of the 5 of the biggest companies in America were in the railways, and Henry Ford came along and started creating cars and trucks. And they could have bought them with their pennies, but they didn't. And today the railways are virtually insignificant, with 80% of transportation being through the trucks. And I think there's going to be a blend between some of them getting involved, but I think the majority of them will miss the boat. And just like the guys that build Volkswagens, you know, sometimes it'll be too late for them. And my perspective is that I think if you try and focus on trying to change people's mindset, it's a very difficult game to play. And certainly our role is not to sit and try and persuade them that the world is changing. It's to show them what's happening.
What's our question over here? I saw a hand raised. Just a second. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, this is a question that is perennially interesting to me, and I'm wondering how you guys are thinking about it these days. From a lawyer's perspective, if I represent a portal, what I would really love to do, I want to create property for you, for my client. And I want to do that by restricting your sponsors. If someone signs up with you, I want to tell them they can't use anybody else, at least for that deal. I'd like to tell them they can't use anybody else within a certain period of time or something. It's very anti-competitive, but if you can get it, it's very, you know, it does create value. So is that something you ever think about doing? Have you tried it with sponsors? Or are you is the industry at a point where you're just so eager to get sponsors that you really don't have any leverage, you can't make that kind of request? Is that a discussion you ever have?
It's not a discussion that we've had. We actually don't have to, because our borrowers just come back right away. We don't need to lock them into anything. And for us, I wouldn't want them to, because the way we come in is to be an alternative to the way that they've always had to seek financing and find it really hard. And so the last thing I would want to do is make them feel like they can only come to us, because the point of us even like being here as well is to give options. And so that, for at least for our business model, because they're small loans and they turn really quickly, they just keep coming back. So we up their own free will.
So Fundrise, have you guys put a listing or solicitation restriction on the developers or on the deals themselves?
No. Honestly, our problem is not finding people who want to raise money. It's finding people who are high quality with good deals who want to raise money. And I mean, for us, we don't want to spend our time trying to convince people or stop people from going to other places. You know, we're gonna compete on having the highest quality and the best execution, and they'll come back to us because they want to, not because we're telling them they can't go somewhere else.
So even like you wouldn't want to think about a first right of refusal on the next deal or anything like that?
So I will tell you, there's a couple of legal implications. Obviously, in Title III, there's issues about posting on multiple portals and restricting that.
Yeah.
Many of the portals that operate with broker-dealers, the broker-dealer listing agreement requires there to be in the PPM one broker-dealer of record for the listing for it, and then there's selling agreements, and there's an opportunity for selling agreements with and among other broker-dealers. And then there's cross-promotional syndication rules related to 506C issues. One of the interesting things that we found meeting with FINRA on a regular basis is one of their issues they are really concerned about and keep bringing up is the transparency to the investor of where the deal is from and who's the FINRA registered person involved in it. And when the answer is more than one, they get extraordinarily frustrated and nervous and want to see that hierarchy and a clear transparency of that ownership. And that has implications, I think, on the cross-syndication of deals or individual deals being promoted in multiple locations. Just want to.
But I think, Joseph, also there's at a very simple level as well, it's a mindset thing. You know, a family friend put me in contact with the guys that started Funded by Me, which is the fastest growing crowdfunding site out of Europe, out of Sweden. And I phoned the guy and I was talking to him, and I actually said to him, I said, you know, you're giving me an hour of your time, why are you doing it? I mean, technically I could be a competitor of yours. And he said, no, the crowdfunding space is all about sharing, because if I help you, we're all going to win together. You know, it's no different to the guy that's Tesla, Elon Musk. You know, he has the, I don't know if you know this, but he's given away the technology to the car, and his logic is he doesn't have the capacity to go out and build garages all over the country, so rather give it away to enable the environment. And you know, I think that it's not about trying to constrain people. That's 20th century. By working together, 21st century, we'll be able to enable people in this space a lot quicker.
One of the questions came up yesterday was, what was the tipping point of when the investors are going to see this as more of a mainstream idea and go from selfless directed investing to more self-directed investing in this place? Unless we partner together, the marketing and the mainstream is never going to get that message, right? So we need that to happen as a partnership across platforms and across the industry. That's why we're here.
So, first of all, let's give these guys a hand. Wealthmigrate.com, Fundrise.com, patchofland.com, liquidity.com. I really urge all of you to go and actually sign up to become an investor on their sites. And even if you just end up as a small investor, the more of us who experience tactically and experientially the sites like theirs, I think will all be better off. And I just want to close with a quote that often circulated and might have been said yesterday, but a bird flies 70% further as a member of a flock than when they fly alone. And I think that's the key message from all of us this morning. So thanks very much.
I think we should make a commitment that each person here should invest at least $10,000 in at least one of those portals.
And if you need a short-term $10,000 note in order to do that, we've got a lender right there. All right, thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.